Hey, everybody. Thanks for being patient while I got situated here at the desk. So I don't know, that was an incredible presentation by Vernon. Thanks so much to him for starting us off for the week like that. I'm excited to get started here. I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share so we have everything ready. My name is Mark Good, and I am the founder of AI Force Training, training up Salesforce professionals for use of AI within the org as end users. Everything related to AI in Salesforce, that is what I do. That is what I'm all in on. Of course, I would love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn and any other way that you'd love to connect. I would be glad to hear from you. So this session is all about GPT, prompting, and language models, and everything that you need to know. We're going to start off with some of the basics and then move on from there. So right off the bat, exactly what is GPT anyway, and what are these LLMs? Just going to give some background information. So Vernon talked about it a little bit. Generative pre-trained transformers, that's the GPT inside of all the GPT products that you'll hear about, that you've already heard about, and that you will hear about during GPT Dreamin'. Generative meaning predictions. So this thing is predicting things for us. In this case, it's predicting text when we're talking about generative language models. Pre-trained meaning big data. So these language models are trained on tons and tons of data, just from all over the place, all different kinds of sources, and that's what makes them so quote unquote intelligent. And then transformers, so generative pre-trained, we're on the transformers part. Transformer is a word for the architecture for taking an input and turning it into a specific output. And that is what I call the request and the response. So transformers take a request and turn it into a response. Now, the chart on the left, that is a chart that was published in a paper from 2016. And the reason I tell you that is because I want you to know that this technology didn't show up yesterday. It's not brand new at the beginning of this year. It has been cultivated and iterated on for many, many years. This specific depiction of a picture here is from a paper called Attention is All You Need. At the time it was published, nobody knew it was going to be such a big deal, but this particular transformer model or architecture produced a significant efficiency to language models, resulting in faster processing of inputs with specific attention on the right places from the input, faster data processing, contextualizing and placing appropriate attention in the right areas of the input, and providing better overall outputs and faster overall outputs. So that is the architecture. Now the chart on the right, that is a chart of sort of a simple depiction of a neural net. Each of those various circles are different nodes and they're interconnected. And each of those connectivities, each of those nodes have weights, and that interconnectivity, sort of a neural net, sort of modeled after a human brain style thinking mechanism, is what turns your input, your chat request, or your request to a language model, and makes the prediction on what the output should be based on the big data that it was trained on. So that is the architecture. So then we get to large language models. So LLM, that's the term we use. And this is the architecture. That GPT architecture is what's behind those language models that make them so powerful. Again, years and years of iteration. It's taken a long time to get to the point where they're as usable as they are today. And transformers like this GPT are powering all of the products like ChatGPT, AI Force's GPT product, Einstein GPT, Sales GPT, and all of the other GPT products that you're going to hear about. It's incredible. So that's the background here. Now that you have a good overview of GPT, what it is and how it works, and that's sort of just, again, layering on top of what Vernon talked about, a little bit of the history again here. Where do these language models even come from? And we'll even talk about Salesforce's own upcoming and impending announcement, I assume at some point, of their own language model. But on the left, you've got a chart for an evolutionary tree. It shows the progress and growth of LLMs over time. And as you make your way up the chain, you'll start to see the names that we're familiar with today, like OpenAI's ChatGPT, which is widely adopted. You've got names like Google Bard, which are better for searches. You've got Claude, which is it's got incredibly massive input windows, or space where you can add text for your chat or context for your chat. Then you've got Meta's Llama, which is an open source model, can be used open source. And then it's not on this chart, but soon I expect you've got Salesforce to finally announce and roll out their own model. They have one in the works right now. It's called XGen 7B. This is the Salesforce owned specific model. And I expect when we get that, it's sort of a zero trust setup where all the data stays within Salesforce. And that's a product that I expect them to be able to offer at some point. Each of these models have their different strengths and weaknesses if you compare them to each other. So why does that matter to us as Salesforce professionals when we're thinking through which models to use, or we're using tools that use certain models? It's good to know what models are being used because each model has its own benefit based on the need, the cost, the security, and so on. So this is what creates the business case for using each different model. And then if you take a look at that graph on the left again, notice that the tree sort of starts small and it's growing with branches out. Well, this tree is, it's as small as it will ever be, because as we go forward, these models will continue to be trained by different companies, and the models that already exist, like OpenAI, the model used by ChatGPT, GPT-4, is going to grow significantly and become sort of smarter and smarter as time goes on, and be more sophisticated for our needs. So exactly how in the world are we supposed to utilize these models? So I've identified 4 different ways that you can sort of categorize and think about utilizing these language models. First is as an end user using end user products. So these are tools like ChatGPT, Google's Bard, Anthropic's Claude, tools from Salesforce themselves like Einstein GPT and something that they call Einstein Replies. Of course, you've got AI Force's GPT tool product. Sidekick has a Salesforce specific GPT tool product as well. And there's more. So these are the end user tools. So becoming a strong end user, learning how to use these tools effectively, learning to know which tools to use and when, and then learning how to integrate those tools into your sort of your workflow to be the most efficient possible. These are ways that you can utilize the end user products the most efficiently. Then you've got another layer here. It's sort of a layer deeper, and that's infusing AI into business processes. So think about this is sort of like custom code that goes out and reaches out to these language models via an API. And there are a few language models that offer that now. And then you can also think about ISV products that have some flexibility that allow you to manipulate their product to meet the needs of your business. So these are things just throwing out. Okay, iDialog has got some products around this. Elements.cloud has got some product around this. GPT-5, AI Gateway. The next layer is to, and there's more, of course. The next layer is to infuse AI into your product. So as a business, as a company, you offer products. And then so far we've been talking about end user and incorporating into your business process, but what about products you offer your customer? So again, there are API options and models that you can use to infuse AI into your product if that makes sense for you. And then there's sort of these other LLMs that we talked about previously on the trees that will allow you some custom setup. So that's something that you can dig into as well. We'll be seeing a lot more of that as we continue on our AI journey. The 4th layer, and this is sort of the deepest layer, which I expect most of us not to get into, but we should know about, which is fine-tuning your own language models. And this is becoming easier and easier over time as various companies are trying to make it easier to fine-tune your own language models. You can do it today, but it does take a lot of sort of expert knowledge and know-how to get in there and know what data to feed it and how to turn that sort of fine-tuning into your own business needs. And then, of course, you have to do your own QA and testing to make sure that's actually giving you the results that you're looking for. So here you can feed data to OpenAI or other LLMs to get that done. And this is, I've listed like Meta's AI and then Cohere for things like that. All right. What about key use cases? So here I'm focusing on those end user products. And so what are those key use cases that we get out of becoming an expert end user in some of the tools like ChatGPT? So of course, everyone's familiar with ChatGPT. Yes, there's also Google Bard, Anthropic's Claude, and more. So some general things that you can do, or some things that you can do to get expert at, are general Salesforce support. So these tools are trained on information that includes Salesforce information. You can go in and ask just sort of general support questions for Salesforce. You've got brainstorming solutions. If you're solutioning for Salesforce challenges or projects, you can use the tool to quickly brainstorm for solutions that might be slightly out of reach from your knowledge base, or might spark a memory of something that you had forgotten, because that's just how our brains work. So brainstorming solutions. Of course, there's validation rules, which is something I talk a lot about. Creating validation rules, creating formulas for Salesforce fields, creating or writing, fixing, and improving your Apex code. Of course, there's some other tools that you can use for that use AI, but also these chatbot tools can help you do that as well. You've got Apex test classes, which is one of my absolute favorites. Once you write your Apex and you want that test class generated, it can go really fast, and then you can sort of tweak the response after the fact. You've got things like UAT test plans, documentation. Of course, documentation is a big one. I think AI unlocks us to create more documentation over time, which is only better for our organizations and for ourselves as we go forward. As we create more documentation, we'll be able to reference that documentation, and I think it's just a win-win. So thanks to AI for increased use of documentation. We've got creating user stories, and the list just goes on and on and on. So just for fun, I thought I'd run through here. I've got a prompt. Let's see if I have it here. Yep. Just a quick question from some of the training material I have. So in Salesforce, what object setup do I use for many-to-many relationships? And then I'm going to drop that specific prompt into a bunch of different chatbot tools, just in case you haven't seen the functionality yet. This is the first one. So this is actually AI Force GPT, and you get a quick answer there. And then, of course, you roll over to ChatGPT, which everyone's super familiar with. And of course, you get a quick answer there. And I'll let you pause the video and evaluate the responses to see how good they are. But I've done this test a lot, and I'm pretty satisfied with most of them. Then this is another one called Sidekick. Again, Salesforce specific. Another LLM powered chatbot tool. And this one's kind of nice. It's very nice, actually. You get a response, and then it follows up with some cool links. So here you go. So now you've got relevant documentation that you can reference regarding the actual response itself. And then here we go, we have Anthropic's Claude. And so really the idea here is pick your favorite, right? Or learn a few, and then learn their advantages and disadvantages and go play around with them. That's one of the quickest ways you can learn, is just dig in and play around, and think of it like a fun activity you can do every day for a little bit, and take some challenges that you have, some things that you need solutions for, to the models, and just try them out. See how well they can perform for you. So these are some what I think are great key use cases for the end user products here. And now let's continue on key use cases for the end user products. And now we're going to talk a little bit about Einstein GPT and Einstein replies. So these, Salesforce has some slightly different branding for each of these, but sort of building off of what Vernon said, you've got Service GPT, and this is a screenshot from what Salesforce has provided on the top right of that. This is the picture on the left. You've got on the top right Einstein replies, where it's going to use context from the chat with the customer to actually generate automated responses. You have the opportunity to review that response and edit it, and then send that reply right into the chat, keeping that human element to make sure everything flows the way it should inside your business, especially when you're working with customers and dealing with service. I think that's a great product, and I cannot wait to sign up. So I'm going to sign up for Service GPT and Sales GPT this month, get a much deeper dive. And so Vernon shared that there's been some great end user feedback on those. So you'll probably hear the same from me, but I want to dig in and see how well they work, and start working on some training on it. So that's Service GPT on the left. We've got Sales GPT on the right. So a classic use case for AI language models is creating that email, which everybody hates, but AI is really going to help augment that for us. So it looks like they have a really cool draft an email with Einstein, with a couple different options there to do things like introduce myself, send meeting invites, nudge for follow-up, check-in, reconnect. So just really nice, quickly, assuming there's a nice template that's used in the background there, generate an email. And we'll talk a little bit more about generating emails in just a second. Let's see, make sure I cover everything here. Oh yeah, so for for service GPT, there's those service replies, so auto-generated personalized responses used by service agents. And then you can also create these work summaries where you summarize a case information and customer engagement. And then for the sales side, again, with emails here, it's auto generation and then personalizing emails with the actual context of data inside the CRM, which is, you know, AI and generating text is one thing. AI and generating text for business solutions with business data is the next level of success that you will see. Okay, continuing on. Let's talk about, again, on the topic of how do we utilize AI. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper here and talk about infusing AI into your business processes. So again, this is thinking of custom Apex code or flexible ISV tools and products that help you infuse AI into your business processes. And so the examples here are OpenAI with their API for the language model GPT 3.5 and GPT-4. So you can utilize that. You can also utilize ISVs with tools available from companies like AI Force, iDialog, and AI with AI infused inside of your flows and the possibilities there. I think you're going to see some more information on that in some subsequent sessions. The possibilities are incredible. Then you've got Elements.cloud with AI-powered org management. You've got GPT-5 with in-org functionality. And then, of course, there are so much more and more showing up very often. So let's talk about the benefits. So what are the benefits here? You can do things like tackle business bottlenecks. Anywhere where you have a specific human decision point, there's an opportunity, not a guarantee, but an opportunity that AI could help tackle that business, that human decision point inside the business process. You've got data analysis for decision making. You've got automated decisions on something like stale records or stale activities, so you can keep your business processes flowing a little bit smoother, so that you don't get stale records inside your org. And then, of course, the list goes on and on there. And then another thing that I like to say is that if you notice something where you're thinking to yourself, well, only a human can do this, it's time to start rethinking that part of your business process, because AI has the capability and the big data that it's trained on gives it the opportunity to actually tackle those decision-making points. Not only that, but it can also utilize your business process and the best practice for your business process in making those decisions. And so I really want you to take that home with you and think about it. Anywhere you're saying that only a human can do this function inside your business process, there's an opportunity that it may not be required that a human does it. And I would say you would want to start looking at those processes that require that human decision that you're constantly having trouble with. So keep that in mind. That is how we utilize it, infusing AI into your business processes. Now let's talk about infusing AI into your products. So again, if you have an opportunity here to offer your customers products where you've infused AI, you've got APIs offered from multiple language models that will allow you to do that. First up, you've got ChatGPT or OpenAI's API there, which is GPT 3.5 and GPT-4. Anthropic's Claude, I believe they have an API that's available, seems to be limited to be able to get in at this point, but at some point I expect them to open that up to a wider audience. You've got Meta AI, you've got Cohere, and then Amazon has also their own offering, Amazon Comprehend. So opportunities to add AI to your company product, and then some examples are, what we're doing internally at AI Force Training is we're all about training. And so we have training material. And if you think of Trailhead, I'll sort of speak to what Trailhead offers as well. A lot of people use training material and need training material. And so we are exploring custom tailored experiences using AI inside of the training experience and the training process that I think will result in faster learning, more personalized learning for your specific background. And I think it's going to change the way that we train and the way that we learn how to do things. You also have this question of, as we learn how to do things now, what tasks are we sending off to AI to do versus what we're doing ourselves? So we're starting to sort of create that line of what we train on, because you don't it's changing. Things are changing, and they're changing fast. So building AI, infusing it into your own services and products is going to be a trend that will continue for quite some time. What a fun topic. I love this one. What about prompt engineering? So many professionals are going to spend a lot of time here on this topic, and I equate learning to prompt to this sort of synonymous with learning how to deliver the right solutions. So because of Prompt Studio, I'm starting to sort of divide prompt engineering into two areas of focus. One is sort of this blank slate prompting, and the other is structured. So I'll dig into Prompt Studio a little bit in just a bit, but Prompt Studio is all about providing structured prompts that can be used in your org. And so once you've gone through that blank slate process and created your prompt, then you transition to more end users using that structured prompt. So we'll take a look. I'll take a look at that in just a little bit deeper. But for the prompt engineering for blank slate, it's really a new designated skill set to the nuance of prompting. Prompt engineering is the skill used to deliver on the earlier side of how we do prompts. So end users are going to use the prompts that prompt engineers sort of drum up and save and apply for different use cases, especially when we're talking about infusing them into the business processes and products. And oftentimes a prompt engineer will create prompts that users and customers will not even see. They'll just flow in the background. Flow is the keyword there, and be used inside the business processes. And so prompt engineering is going to be a key skill that employers will be looking for very soon. And you'll see a presentation later in a few days where we have someone who's actually hiring a prompt engineer today. So prompt engineering, this is a graphic on the top left. So Salesforce calls out prompting. So prompting, and they call out with templates, but someone's got to create those templates. So prompt engineering does that. So these two charts here, there's one on the left. OpenAI actually offers some sort of how to get started on prompt engineering as a free resource for itself. So that's just some examples from their free resource. Then I think of prompting. When you think of prompting, I like to talk about them in these couple of different ways here, these bullet points here. You've got creative prompts versus factual prompts. Creative prompts are really easy to make because there's no defined solution that you truly need out of the LLM other than creating something specific that you're looking for. And then factual, and this is sort of a continuum here. The factual side, you're looking for a very specific response, and it has to be exact. And it's like doing math, which ChatGPT is not good at, as you may know, but we're getting there. And so creative versus factual prompts. And you've got prompt best practices. So there's all kinds of best practices for prompts that you have to learn in order to be the most effective you can be at creating prompts. You've got context. So this is the input that you put in your prompt. Creating the context for the response is what drives the response. If you're learning prompting, you'll need to know how to build context. Things like tone, style, length, audience, expert. These are all sort of things that go into the prompt decision making. You have to ask yourself when you're prompting, which of these elements do you need to incorporate into your prompt based on the response and the results that you're looking for. You've got zero shot and K-shot. What are those? Well, zero shot is really just using context and requesting a response. And then K-shot is sort of the other side of that, where you're actually providing examples of what the output should look like. You can provide any number of examples inside of your prompt to really guide that output. And then you've got, what about prompts that use customer data versus generic? So some prompts you'll be using for your business processes will not use customer data, don't need customer data, because they're just focused on a business process that's happening in your org. Other times you will use customer data. And so you'll see in just a minute how Prompt Studio defines how you generate these prompts and how you lay that out. All right. Okay, right into Prompt Studio. Great. So these are some screenshots from Salesforce. Really excited about this product, Prompt Studio. Tools like Prompt Studio or equivalent prompt storage tools are going to help users, prompt engineers, and users curate and save your top best used prompts to be used across your organization. You can include branding, which is sort of like a library for org specialized tone and style of communication. So you can really take sort of a tone and style of your company and infuse it into your customer communications and even internal communications. Um, that's something that you'll be able to do. And then with Prompt Studio, we also learn, if you take a look at that right-hand side on the configuration, you've got language, because AI is really great at translating. And so it's really nice to be able to define languages. Uh, Again, style, which we've talked about, a sender, so sort of a almost like defining the tone of person who's saying the thing that's coming out of the AI. And then recipient, so that's your audience who's getting the message. And then provider, I think, is really key down right near the bottom. You've got OpenAI, but it's a drop down. Again, you're going to need to learn these language models, learn what works and what doesn't work when you use each one. And that's something that you'll need as a prompt engineer when you're creating prompts, either inside or outside of Prompt Studio and using AI. Oh, I should also mention, I expect in that provider box at some point, Salesforce will roll out their XGen 7B. Of course, they'll rename it to something on brand, and that will also be a provider for your prompt. Continuing on Prompt Studio, we expect Prompt Studio to do things like simplify prompts for us, help end users focus on specific areas. I made a note about email template replacement. If you take a look at the bottom screenshot, this is from Salesforce, and this is a sort of a template for a prompt. I gotta say, the way you infuse customer org data into the prompt looks a lot like a template, an email template out of Salesforce. So there's a big question mark in my mind of the phase out over time of potentially phase out of email templates. Maybe not entirely, but just over time, I think we transition more to using prompts for generating emails. They're going to be way more, they can be way more personalized to your customer or personalized to the use case. And that makes them way better responses for customers and supporting end users and customers overall. And then, of course, with Prompt Studio and creating prompts in general, you can create those highly personalized GPT responses, that text generation that that helps make AI responses better for end users and customers. Quick question: how do we get started or advance your prompting skills? So I just got a couple screenshots here. Of course, you're going to want to start with free resources. Start simple. Open up ChatGPT, free to use. Pick an objective. Pick up the tool like ChatGPT and start practicing getting what you want. That's the way you get started. That's the ultimate first way to get started. You're going to find out that it's sometimes challenging to get what you're looking for, but practice often and you'll start to get better and better over time as you spend a lot of time with the language models with these free resources. There's also sample sort of study guides out there that you can grab for prompts, so you can sort of read through those and start learning how prompts are structured in that way and sort of take some cues there. Of course, you've got prompt engineering training. Companies like AI Force Training offer that, and you can sort of quicken the learning curve very fast there and go from not being able to prompt and not get the solutions you want to getting them very quickly. And then, of course, you've got, or you may not know this, but OpenAI has a playground. If you want to go even deeper, you can open up OpenAI's playground and really just, there's some different levers you can pull and curate your own prompts for your own business solutions inside there. And then you can plug those in either in Prompt Studio later or in other tools that can use prompting as well. So similar to Vernon, with a little different take, I'd like to talk about what the future holds for AI and Salesforce professionals that are using AI in their org and as end users for tools. So in the short term, I expect Salesforce to continue rolling out AI as they proposed and as the picture shows for their plan for the summer of AI. We've seen some of the rollout of Einstein GPT functionality so far. We'll continue to anticipate the continued rollout of that. We have Salesforce's own language model. That's my prediction. They seem to be progressing on that. They've got their own in-house tech for getting that done. So I think they're going to roll that out at some point. I think it'll be considered a zero trust model where you're not relying on third-party service now. You're relying on Salesforce themselves. We'll see how that goes and how long that takes. I think we're going to see continued capability improvements for tools like OpenAI and Claude and other chat style AI products. If you know about Code Interpreter, if you heard about that or have used it at all, you'll know that there's additional functionality being added to these language models as we go forward. And as Salesforce and other ISVs and product offerings sort of learn about these additional bolt-on tools and are able to use them, you're going to see incredibly fast improvements on the offerings that you can utilize from these companies. Continue training and onboarding. So we're gonna have to continue to train and onboard. That's what this event is all about. GPT Dreamin'. It's all about just sharing the message of GPT, where we are today, what's to come tomorrow, and just sort of inspire you to take action and start to go down the path if you aren't already, and start blazing some trails using AI inside your org. And then I expect we're going to see continued adoption of ISV solutions. So there's some great solutions out there already for GPT use cases with Salesforce product. And I think that's going to continue on, and those products are going to get better and better as we go. And organizations who use those tools, use AI basically using AI for your org and for your processes, are going to start taking the lead against organizations that aren't. And I think it's not clear today that that's happening, but I think it will become clear that that happens soon. So that's for the short term. Now let's talk about the long term. So I think long term, this is an absolute paradigm shift. This is a technology revolution. It's going to reshape our businesses and our CRM processes that operate with AI. AI integration throughout the customer lifecycle is going to take place. In fact, throughout the entire business lifecycle over time. But I think a lot of the focus will be for the customer to begin with, because that's where you've got the biggest value, is to serve your customers better. And then I think there's going to be some AI specific dedicated careers. I think that we're just at the beginning still, and employers are starting to learn the value of AI, and employees who have the capability and have learned about AI and know how to use those tools effectively, teach others on those tools effectively, and integrate AI within the Salesforce org. I think employers are going to start to understand through events like this and others that that this is going to be key for their success over time. So those careers will evolve over time, and I hope to be a part of helping that evolution take place. And then you're going to have some incredible ISV solutions that get developed over time. There's some incredible ones today that you'll see throughout the event, but I think that those are just going to continue, and the improvements are going to compound over time. Awesome. So if you enjoyed this presentation, of course, please connect with me on LinkedIn. There's a QR code there. If you're quick enough, you can scan it and make that connection. I also publish weekly AI Salesforce updates. So that's over on YouTube. You can follow AI Force Training on YouTube to get that done. Again, another QR code for you to make that link there. And then I also have free resources available at aiforcetraining.com. And if that's not enough, then if you're at Dreamforce this year, I would love to meet you. If you see me, catch me and say hi. I'll be co-hosting a fireside chat there, and super excited for that event. I hope you all enjoyed the session today. I hope to see you all on your AI journey soon. Enjoy the rest of GPT Dreaming Week. We have some incredible speakers coming again tomorrow, and then also throughout the rest of the week. So excited to do this event, and I hope you're all enjoying it, and I hope you're getting significant value and some key takeaways, some information that you can go home with and start taking action with today. So thanks, everyone. I can't wait to see you all again tomorrow.